Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Sangram, for taking out the time today. First, let me quickly introduce Sangram. I think all of you have seen his LinkedIn posts and have followed him. And he talks a lot about GTM and actual things that work. And I've had special interest from fractionals after they saw that I'm I have Sangram for this LinkedIn Live. So Sangram Vajre, guys, he's the co-founder and CEO of GTM Partners, where he works directly with companies to design and run GTM. He's also the author of the bestseller journal, Wall Street Journal Move, the four question GTM framework. So we'll be talking about that today as well. He, his podcast has approximately almost like 200,000 GTM leaders as subscribers. So guys, he is the guy to tell you all about GTM today. And we're going to break that down part by part. But over to you, Sangram. Anything you want to add to this amazing introduction, please do that. So happy to
Well,
have you
no,
here.
thank you, Swati, for having me, and thanks everybody for joining in. I think this is the go-to-market is really interesting. I feel like when in 2021, when I wrote the book Move, um, uh, go-to-market wasn't a thing, right? Like it was a new thing, and we were just trying to see around the corner. And I remember Jeffrey Moore, who wrote Crossing the Chasm and gave a quote for the book. He said, "Man, if I were to write another book like Crossing the Chasm, it should be like Move, because it just really distills down some of the fundamentals of what go to market is." And fast forward 5 years into now, there's just so many people who are becoming fractional, so many people trying to build go to market. AI has taken over every part of our lives. So I think it's there are certain things I said in the book, Swati, at that time that was a little bit futuristic and thinking about like, well, the CEO should own go to market and business transformation happens in team and all teams should work like this. Some of that was aspirational in 2021, but with AI and everything that we're going through right now as at a macrocosm of all these things, I think it's all possible now. So I'm excited about where go to market is and what everybody can do.
Awesome. So I think we'll start with the definition of go to market, because a lot of leaders define it very differently. And if you ask me, I wanted to check that, and I typed what is GTM go to market on Google on Chat GPT, and I got different answers. So
Of course.
LLMs have the definition confused. So do the leaders. So why don't you break it down for us? What exactly does GTM or go to market mean?
So Swati, as I break it down, let me share two things about it. As part of writing the book, that was one of our top 50 questions around go to market. And the two questions that were at the top were, who owns go to market and how do you define go to market? Like, so you're asking me right the question that was probably the most heated, contested, and talked about question by every go to market leader, CEO, CMO, CROs, even PE firms that we talked to at that time. So what was really interesting was that I thought, having built Terminus, having gone through Pardot and Salesforce acquisition, that I thought I knew and understood go to market. But the definition of go to market in my mind was launching a new product, launching a new campaign, creating a new segment in the marketplace, channel marketing, all these different things that I knew. And when it really came down to was the conversation I had with Brian Halligan, who was then the CEO of HubSpot. He said, first of all, the CEO, owns go to market. And I was like, wait, what? You're the CEO of a publicly traded company from zero to 100,000 plus customers. How do you say, if you say buck stops with you, I get it, but no. He said, Sangram, you don't understand. CEOs, as a CEO, I have to own go to market. And he defined it in such a way where he said, well, who makes the decision if you want to invest more in marketing or sales?
Hmm.
Has to be the CEO. And that's a go-to-market decision. If you want to open an office in EMEA or stay in North America or go global, what is that? That's a go-to-market decision. If you want to buy a company or build a product internally, that's a go-to-market decision. So first, it broadened my view of what go-to-market is and what it needs to be. So by that definition, there are hundreds of go-to-market decisions that you make every single day. So then how do you define go-to-market? Well, many people would do it in 80 different ways. And the way we define it in the book and what we understand is that go-to-market is a transformational process.
Hmm.
I'll just stop at that part of it. There's a lot more elements to it, but a transformational process. It's a process, not a strategy, not a one-day session that you do with your executive team, at an offsite. You actually transform your business. That's what you're trying to do. It's a transformation. It's a process, which is by which you mean that you'll be doing hundreds of go-to-market decisions every single day. Most people treat go-to-market as a one-time strategy, like an annual planning, but it is way more than that. So the way we define it in the book and the process is, it's a transformational process.
Wow. So it's a transformational. And what is the start and the end? How do you define success? Like, if it's transformation, but you
Yeah.
should be going up, right? Everybody wants
Yeah.
to do better than yesterday. So
Yeah.
what is the definition of better than yesterday? How would you define that?
That's a great question, Swati. I think the better is the progress that you make, and the biggest telltale sign that go-to-market is working is really three things that you get in your company. Do you have clarity at the executive level? Do you have alignment at the executive level? And do you have trust at the executive level? Those are the three real milestones, if you will, for companies to achieve. We did a research, as you said, like Go-to-Market Partners. We are a research firm. There are like 200,000 plus people read our research. And we do this research regularly, Swati. And we ask people, hey, what is stopping you from getting your numbers using for go-to-market? And these are all go-to-market leaders. And Swati, 78% of them said that if they had clarity around where they need to go from their executive team, from their CEO, they will hit their numbers. And we asked them, Swati, like, hey, is it, and we gave them some cop-outs, like, hey, what about the economy? Maybe that's why you're not hitting your numbers. Or maybe competitors are coming up. AI, like, how about everybody wants to say and blame AI, right? But 78%, Swati, made the requirement saying that if they had clarity around what is the go-to-market process, why is this ICP important than that, where is our gross margin so we can focus on those products and services, what market are we trying to capture, if they have clarity around those things, they will actually hit their numbers, which really is the progress is, do you have clarity? And I bet if anyone who's listening to this right now, if you go in to your executive team and say, hey, what does our best customer look like? Which ICP should we focus on? Which go-to-market motion is where we should invest on? You'll get 4 different answers, and that's what's killing businesses today.
So there's a question. There are two questions. How do you decide which acquisition channels to prioritize? And also there is another question on that. How do you put the responsibility between different teams? Very interesting questions. Product, sales, marketing, and there's usually a blame game. So this is the one that I've got in my DM, that there is blame game between product, sales, and marketing. The product is not coming up with features fast. Sales is saying that marketing is not getting good quality leads. You know what I'm talking about when I say MQL, SQL, the whole thing. And of course, marketing saying, oh my God, the leads are good. We have the ICP defined and we are banking on the ICP. You guys are not probably doing a good job at converting them. So there's always this thing that happens. But how do you do the attribution between these three teams? And then, so there are two questions. I'm sorry, Sangram, we are getting a lot of questions. So one on attribution between teams and the other one on which channels to prioritize and how do you decide that?
So it comes down to those two common fundamentals. The CEO has to own go-to-market. So my question back to the person asking this is like, who owns go-to-market? Is there clarity around it? Is the CEO in the room when you're making all these decisions? Or is it that marketing, give me leads, sales, give me deals, product, give me thrills with new product features, right? If that's the conversation that's happening, then the CEO does not own go-to-market. And that's a problem. You need to educate and help them own it. And owning meaning they're not running, owning meaning that they are ultimately responsible for go-to-markets. That's one. And if Bram Halligan, a CEO of a HubSpot, a publicly traded company, can do it, there's not a single CEO can tell me that they can't do it, right? That's number one. And number two, business transformation. And this is key, Swati. When I learned this and saw this in action, it really changed my perception around this. Business transformation happens in teams. So if marketing could fix it, then go and let marketing fix. But that we all know in B2B, that's not true. One team cannot fix it. So a team, you have to redefine what a team is. A team is not a marketing team or a sales team or a CS team. A team is a go-to-market team. So one of the key areas that we help when we work with other companies that run on GTM OS, we help them, like, we literally, this is really interesting. We ask them, what are the names of your meetings? We'll pull up their calendar and ask them, like, tell me what are the names of your meetings. And the meetings are typically like this, which is why the problem exists that you're mentioning. Oh, we have a marketing alignment meeting, or we have a pipeline meeting that salesperson owns. Oh, we have a churn meeting where the customer success team has to come up with a report. you can immediately see guards going up, walls piping up
Yes.
every single way. So we said, no. You need to stop calling them, because words have the power of life and death. So you shouldn't use these words, because that puts somebody in a defensive position. You're a
Yes.
business leader. So what you should have meetings that should say, this is a go-to-market meeting. This is a revenue meeting. This is call it something where everybody has to contribute. And there's really, the only owner is the CEO. Everybody else needs to play their part of building this business, but the owner is the CEO. So if you have a marketing meeting that marketing has to present, and salesperson has to present, and a CS person has to present, well, that's your problem. That's ultimately
Yeah.
what's causing all these issues.
Okay. That's an interesting point. And my question has been asked by someone, and they're asking that if the CEO or the founder, in my case, would be taking these decisions, how do I attribute and what are the KPIs that I need to look at my product, marketing, CS, and all these teams? I
Yeah.
think, will the question be same as to my first question that I've been wanting to ask, but I'm all taking all the audience questions, is that what is the GTM OS?
Yeah.
So that was my question. And this gentleman is asking about how does the CEO take a decision? So if they can be combined or if they're totally different answers, over to you, Sangram.
Yeah, no, I happy to. Well, the GTM OS is a deeper question, answer to the question. So people can go to runongtmos.com and it will give them a pretty deep dive on it. But I'll touch on it in a second. But the other question that you asked on how do you make sure that the CEO owns go to market? What does that really mean? Well, and what's your role now? If you're a marketer or sales leader listening to this right now, you need to learn to be a great facilitator of conversations. That is key part. Like we have, I'll show you something. This is again on it is on runongtmos.com. But as an example, we have here are like the 15 problems. If people are seeing this, they can take a screenshot, or you can go and download it from runongtmos.com. But our research shows, Swati, there are only 15 go-to-market problems.
Okay.
There's not a 16th one. So your job is to facilitate and saying, hey, what problem are we trying to solve? And have them highlight the top three, and have the sales leader highlight the top three. If you're a marketer, you highlight the top three, and see even if you align on the problems. Because 9 out of 10 times, people are not even aligned on what problems you're trying to solve. And hence you are in a place where you're like, whoa, somebody's trying to solve churn, somebody's trying to solve pipeline problems, somebody's trying to solve acquisition. And in theory, Swati, it all sounds right? Because these are all problems that you need to solve. But in reality, having built multiple $100 million businesses, I'll tell you, even at the highest level, you cannot solve 3 big problems at the same time. So what you have to do is to align and say, hey, what is the one problem that we all can align and solve in the next 90 days? And which means this particular problem is still going to be there. And nobody needs to wake up tomorrow morning and start shouting about this particular problem, because we all have agreed we are not going to look at this problem as big as a problem right now, because we are solving this problem. And that's when you need the everybody. Oh, we have the acquisition problem. Okay, so let's fix our ICP, get our sales process for that ICP working, make sure our customer success is prepared to up level every single customer to the next thing that we want to sell them or expand with them, and focus on ICP only, not focus on churn, anything for any other segment, but that particular segment. That part, Swati, I'd say out of we have advised over 1,000 companies in the last 5 years through our program and process and fractional agencies and partners. And I'll tell you, at 7 or 8 out of 10 times, the biggest challenge is ICP, where people have no clarity around. They think they do, but when they sit as a group, as an executive level, they cannot agree on what problem they're trying to solve this quarter. They want to solve all. And when everybody wants to solve all, nothing really happens.
I completely agree. I think the question should not be how do you attribute success, but how do you solve for problems and together decide that this is the biggest problem. And that gets ownership, because otherwise every leader feels, oh my God, like my metric is not moving, and otherwise I'll be hauled up. It should not be, they should not be operating out of fear. They should rather be operating towards working towards that one goal that the company is solving for. And that is what CEO needs to decide.
I'll add one more thing to that, Swati. I think operating out of fear, just a contrary view on that, is okay. And the fear you should have is the fear of dilution of effort, the fear of incremental growth, the fear of not able to achieve great success because you're focused on too many things, the fear that we are not aligned and we're going to do so much thing and spend all this money and not. I think there is a healthy fear, that is healthy skepticism, that is actually very helpful. I remember, when Pardot, for example, when I was running marketing at Pardot and we got acquired by Exact Target, and then 6 months later, Exact Target got acquired by Salesforce. So I went from a $10 million company to a $10 billion company, right? And I still remember, Swati, they were helping me think about like, hey, Sangram, you got to think big. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean? What do you mean by think big? I'm thinking big. I'm adding more budget. I'm spending more. We're hiring more people, right? That's all I knew. This is 10 years ago, and 10, 15 years ago now. And I remember one conversation where I walked back out of that conversation, Swati, and I was like, oh, they mean to say when I think big is they want to build a new cat. When you're building a new category, you get to set the rules. You get to create a new point of view. You get to see, you get to look forward and say, here's where the world is going to go, and actually put all of your weight behind it. You have earned the right to say and do things like that, right? So everyone has to recognize what stage of the business they are in. And I think that's where people fall flat. So one part to think about as you think about that response is, do you know what stage of the business you're in? In the book, we go through this three stages called 3 Ps: problem market fit, product market fit, and platform market fit. Most companies have no idea what stage of their business they're in. And as a result of that, what happens is you start acting like a platform company when you're a feature in a problem market fit, or you start thinking you're a product market fit when 2 people buy from you from the same segment and you think you got a product fit in that particular segment.
In that particular category, yeah.
Right. And it's not true. It's not true. Yeah. So all these things comes down to a common way of understanding what is go-to-market, who owns go-to-market, and can you bring the team around common thing, which is what GTM always does.
Yes, this is amazing. I mean, the healthy fear part did get me thinking about parenting a little bit, because I think it's very similar to parenting your team at the end of the day, because there needs to be healthy fear. You're absolutely right there. And okay, so we have a lot of questions popping up. One question is that what are the GTM metric that the CEO should track daily, weekly, monthly? Great question.
Yeah. There's honestly, I've asked this question, and we obviously help lots of companies. If you are in B2B SaaS business, I'm assuming that's majority of the folks listening to this. And if not, let me know, Swati. But if you're in a B2B SaaS, there's only one metric that matters above all. Like, you can track every single element. We have looked at all the things across the board. We have a go-to-market scorecard. If you go to Run on GTM OS, you can download it for free as part of the assessments and all those things. But there's only one metric that I've seen time and time again being the most important metric: the health of the business. It tells you the culture of the business that you're in. It helps you figure out the teams, how they're aligned or not. It tells you if you're going to have a runway or not for your business. And that's NRR, net revenue retention.
Yes.
Most leaders are not tracking that at the highest level, and most people in the company do not have any idea what NRR is or what should it be and what number it should be. So I can dig into that for a second if you want, but that is the number one metric that people need to really get. That you talk about fear, you should be so fearful that you're not 100% plus NRR that you should not sleep until you get there. Like, it needs to be that level of obsession with that metric, because that one metric will tell you everything you need to know about the health of the business.
I mean, if that is not correct, it tells you might be chasing the wrong ICP, a category of customers, or churning out. That is a very, very big indicator. And a lot of founders who are actually who've had meetings with VCs, there's just a trend. I don't know if I'm correct here. They're aware of these terms because this is the metric that VCs want them to kind of submit. So there's net dollar retention, NRR, and all these conversations happen, and then you churn those numbers fast on those Excel sheets. But folks who've been running business, I mean, they look at those growth. Okay, are the MQLs increases? Are the meetings increasing? Are the demos increasing? Is the conversion happening? But actually, the customer success side, the expansion, which is a very important metric that kind of gets, you kind of don't look at it because you're like, oh, every month I'm getting in so much of revenue from new customers. What's happening? Is it a leaky bucket or not? They don't check. So that's a very, very important question. But we do have some folks who deal with D2C as well in our
Mm.
audience today. And so I'll take a one of that question. The gentleman says, what are the key differences between GTM strategies for D2C brands and service-based businesses?
Well, there is none. There is none in terms of go to market. So when you look at the GTM OS, if you get a chance to take a look at it, I actually thought there would be tremendous amount of difference between it, because tactically there are, right? Like tactically, you go after a B2B company differently than a B2C. Tactically, there are multiple people in the buying process in a B2B versus D2C. And we can take services as a secondary element to it, but even in between B2B and B2C, strategy wise is the same. And I was shocked at it, because we have clients that are in restaurant industry, in B2C and all that stuff. And what we see is that the eight questions that the GTM OS is around are absolutely key to drive incredible business outcome. Because those 8 questions that we identified through all of our research, Swati, is that most companies do not have clarity around those 8 questions. And as a result of it, if the executive team does not have clarity around it, all the downstream people don't. And that goes back to that result of 78% of the executives saying, I don't know, if we had clarity, we would win, but we don't, right? So it all connects back to that. So I was really interested. I'm glad you asked that question. I spent almost 2 years thinking there might be different. So I came up with different questions, but every time we would talk to a B2C or a services company or a B2B company, it came down to the same. And here's why. Fundamentals of every business are the same. You want to grow, you want to figure out where you can grow, you want to figure out which products have the highest gross margin. You have to figure out which are the right go-to-market motions, like events or PLG or all those things are going to work. You have to figure out what is the 1 or 2 metric that's going to drive your business and the health of the business. You have to figure out how do you go from a product company to a platform company. So NRR becomes a key thing. And you have to figure out how do you align your executive team to run a better business, a profitable business. So those 8 questions that we have around GTM OS, they have been constant from last 5 years, haven't run it across over 2,000 companies, has not changed a bit, regardless of a B2B company, a B2C company, or even a services company.
That's so amazing. Of course, we're going to download those. And when we make edits of this entire live, I'm going to put those questions here. But could you just tell us 1 or 2 questions for the audience today? Just 1 or 2 questions from those 8 questions.
Yeah, I'll give you like the 2 most common questions that we end up spending majority of the time, and the CEOs and the executive team, that if you can answer this question clearly, you're probably going to double your revenue, because it is not just a hyperbole. It's just what I've seen over the last 5 years. So the first question is, where can you grow the most? The most is the key part of that question. It's not where can you grow. Most people ask that question, where can you grow? And, you can grow in this particular segment and this particular industry, or launch this particular product. So people answer that question very differently. But when you add that intentionality around it, which is where can you grow the most, you bring in a healthy debate. And that's why the CEO has to be in the room to answer this question with all the leaders of go-to-market, which is marketing, sales, product, ops, CS. They need to be part of this conversation. Well, where can you grow the most will require you to ask questions like, well, to answer that question, is this where we have the highest gross margin? Is this where people stay with us? Do we have a point of view for this thing? Do we have a go-to-market motion to support these customers that will come from this? So it helps you to bring that healthy conversation, the healthy debate that most companies are not having. 7 to 8 out of 10 times, Swati, most organizations are not aligned on where they can grow the most. And it is killing businesses truly left and right. So that's very simple, yet very powerful question that companies need. Number 2, I'll give you the second one, is that what is your differentiated point of view? Now, guess again, the intentionality is the differentiated word. Every company has a point of view. But if you look at your website and your competitor's website, and if the words are the same, then you do not have a differentiated point of view. That's something that people should go and just look at right now. It's a very practical example. So if you go and say, well, I do this and so does your competitor, maybe services business or B2B, B2C, doesn't really matter, then you do not have a differentiated point of view. A differentiated point of view will be something like, hey, we solve this particular problem for this segment better than anybody else. So for example, if you are focused on legal tech And
Mhm.
you could do the same thing, but for a legal tech industry, your differentiated point of view is for the legal tech audience. You're going to stand out in every competitive conversation that ever in the legal tech space, right? As an example. So where can you grow the most? And what is your differentiated point of view? Swati, those two questions probably solve, in my estimation, and all the work we have done in 5 years, 80% of the problems most companies are having, because the answers to those questions in most organizations are very vague, all over the place, not
Yes.
specific at all. And unfortunately is the reason why people keep jumping to the next shiny object, because they just are not focused enough, disciplined enough to have a debate and force yourself to answer that question and stick to it for the next 90 days to solve for it.
I 100% agree with the thought, but is the differentiator always just the ICP? Because you mentioned, oh, legal tech
Mm,
company, great. And
yeah.
ICP, more often than not, ICP is the differentiator. And I completely agree. Okay, hey, HubSpot is for mid-market, Salesforce is for enterprise. And we see that happening across the board. This is the biggest example that I could think of. But does it have to be ICP? What other differentiators? So categorically, I think a lot of us would want to know that when we think of differentiators, what are the categories we can truly consider?
Oh, I
Definitely
love that.
ICP thereof. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So different. So you're right. Segment is the clearest way that we try to see and help companies, because ultimately most companies need, unless you are like a massive companies, most companies need 5, 10, 50, maybe 100 clients a year in
Yes.
order to hit their numbers, right? So we have to take that. We call it the TRM, total relevant market, not
Mm.
TAM. Total addressable market could be massive. Like, oh, I could sell to every B2B company. But TRM, which is total relevant market, is like, how many businesses do you really need to sell this year to hit your numbers? And
Mm.
typically that's like a 5 a month or like 100 this year, and that's more than enough for people to do, which is why segmentation at a vertical level actually makes the most sense. But there are other places. Another example of that one will be not just segmentation, but geo is like, hey, we are the best for North America, or we are the best for this. So geo is a very, so we have folks who only work with Australian companies or European companies, or the base is in North America, like those kind of things. So that geo, I've seen that happen quite a bit. The other one is very much partner led, right? So if you have like, hey, we do not have our own, we don't want to create necessarily our own brand, our own thing. We want to actually go in and be the pipe for every single business that does this. As an example was Bombara, when they came up, as a data company, they didn't want to compete with Zoom Info and Sales Intel and all the data companies. They said, hey, ABM companies, we have all the data. We don't want to be known. You go sell and you give us 10% off that. And they ended up becoming a $50 million business in a matter of like
Yeah.
few years, right? So your partner-led motion can actually be one of the greatest way to grow your business and have a differentiated point of view, that the way we go to market is not through our own sales team, your business, and we're gonna do events, sponsorship, everything around you and that channel, right? So they're like, those are like 3 different examples of thinking about it.
A lot of time, I think there's a question here which says that my process, the way we do things is different. How do I put that across as my differentiator?
Oh, well, that is cute, I'll say.
Okay.
That is nothing but that is cute, because everybody feels like, and I'll just be honest, right? Because we do so much of it, and I have to be very honest with a lot of people. Like, everybody thinks they are a snowflake, a very
Mhm.
special kind of snowflake. Everybody thinks that there is something they are and they do that is so good and so different. And the question is, now, of course, the answer is, of course, we expect you to know and do something differently, because you are a unique human being, and a unique company and a unique DNA around it. But that's not what customer is buying,
Yeah.
right? Like, customer is buying for a specific outcome. So there are only 5 types of outcomes that people buy. Like, this is something that most people don't know, and we've done so much research around it. One is attributable. If you put in $1 in investment, you get $3. That's the most common way people buy. Is like, hey, am I going to try your services software? I'm going to $10,000. Can I get 30,000 or 50,000? Right? That's one. Number 2 is transformational, where you say, well, if you implement this, it's going to change your business. Think about email marketing, think about CRM. People don't ask ROI for it. They say, oh, we need this because it's going to change the way we do business. So that's 2. Number 3 is necessity. oh, if I don't have this, I'm not going to be able to do my business. So think about
Yeah.
email as another example. If you do not have email or you do not have ads to run on your products, you won't be able to scale. So necessity is another way of looking at ROI. The fourth one is efficiency. Is that okay? This is going to make my team productive. So I want this. This is going to
Yeah.
make things better for me, easier for me. So it's going to be efficient in every way I'm going to do. So people, these are the 4 ROI. The 5th ROI is the hardest one and or the worst one. And I hope nobody stays in that. We call it the muddy middle. Is the indirect ROI, where you say that, hey, if you use our product or service with this, you're going to be better off. And when it comes to renewal time and expansion time, they're like, I can't really show the ROI because they've been looking for either attributable or transformational or necessity or efficiency, and they can't really put their finger on it. So
Yeah.
I would say, instead of saying we are a special snowflake, I think people should say that, hey, here is our attribution thing. So when you talk about differentiated point of view, imagine if your website said, and it, let's say, does the same thing as your competitors, and if your messaging is all about, we are a transformational business, and here's what transformation looks like when you use us, then you can go after businesses that are looking for transformation. If you are in necessity or efficiency, say, hey, when somebody uses us, they save $10 or 10% or 20% or whatever that is. You are now talking to the people who want that kind of outcome. So that's another way to differentiate your point of view.
I agree. Would it be wrong to say that if you want to say that you're unique, then impact, talking about what impact, what change, what transformation you'll bring, that's what you need to talk about. That this side of your business or this part of your business will go from A to B, and that's the impact that I create. And
Yeah.
we believe, like, maybe because that's result focused. That's not saying that who you are, but changing the narrative, like not making you the hero of the story, but making
Yeah.
your customer the hero of the story and making it around that.
Well,
So I think great.
people buy what they want to solve a problem for.
Yes.
But ultimately, people buy from the people who care about the problem, which is why you doing it in a special way might be the reason they buy you ultimately, because when they're evaluating 3 different vendors. But to be in the 3 different vendors, you have to be very, very clear as to what transformation or attribution or necessity or efficiency, what are you really solving for? You have to be crystal clear about it. If you lead with that, then you doing it in a special way makes a great combination. But if you lead with, like, we're a special snowflake, then it doesn't help you to close that particular deal.
I agree, but there would be some cute founders out there who would have genuinely a good product, but they're not good with sales, they're not good with GTM. So they're like, oh, I'm doing it differently, but just screaming and talking about it will not help. And I know, Sangram, we're on time, but I already have a question, which I told you that from Fractionals.
Go for it.
So we'll a little bit on that, and I'm not taking any more GTM questions. But so the question is, and this particular person had also shared your recent LinkedIn post, which talked about like $300,000 marketing roles are over, and now it's like fractionals are making way more, like almost $500,000, close to $1 million also, with 3 to 4 different companies doing fractional work, because now they don't need to hire multiple agencies and people to do it. They can make they can work with 10 Claude skills and they're set, kind of a thing. So can you the question is that, how do you really, like, if I want to be a fractional, and there's a lot of firing also that has happened recently, which is also one of the main reasons where I'm seeing a lot of people get into fractional roles. So do you think this is the right way for a person like who's been fired, that fractional is the right way to do? Does it make sense? Should they still consider like looking for other options? Second question, I'm just combining all the questions so you can answer in one go. Does it make sense? Like, what do you need to be a fractional? What questions do you need to ask yourself, or should you go for a job? One. Second, what is the kind of, again, clients? Should it be like, because you're doing marketing, you can take different clients, like you said, or should you focus a vertical industry so that you can increase what will help them increase their NRR, so to say, right? Turn their fractional business into an agency, or can that never happen? So that was another question. I'm just combining like 5-10 questions here. I'm so sorry.
Well, here's what I'll say, Swati, to that. Like, one,
answer these questions.
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer it in like 2 minutes
Please.
of it. But I did a whole hour and a half recording on going
Okay.
really deep on it. So, and it's available for free. So if you go to anybody listening to this, if they go to my profile and in the featured section, there's a promo code, and you can literally listen hour and a half of examples of how do you niche down, how do you go after this thing, how do you build a 300, 500K, because I get asked about this
Yeah.
all the time. So I just did a recording and made it available for free for everybody to listen to. So I'll highly recommend everybody to go in if you're interested in it. It will help you. It will help you answer some of the questions that are really messing your ability to think through it. But I'll give you a couple of highlights on it. Number
Yes.
one, most people who have been doing a full-time job, they don't realize that fractional is like becoming an entrepreneur. So that means you have to think about waking up in the morning and thinking about what are you going to do? What are you going to create? Who are you going to reach out to? And so now all of a sudden, instead of just doing the work, which you're really, really good at, you also have to find the work. And that becomes the biggest stumbling block for most incredibly amazing, smart, talented people to get into the arena or do well in this arena, because they do not have a system and a process to do that. So that recording really teaches you how to do that, because we have seen hundreds of people do that. So one, you have to be okay with that. Like it will not come in. People are not going to knock at your door because you've done great work just randomly. You have to be known for it. Doesn't mean you have to be an influencer at all, but it does mean that you have to be out there and be known for something. So there's a process. So that's one stumbling block, is not recognizing that you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be a solopreneur, and that requires you to almost wake up every day creating work for yourself. Not most people are not used to doing that. Most people are used to waking up to meetings and emails. You have to create your own thing. Nobody's emailing you unless you want to, right? So that's a big difference. And number two, people don't really understand the math of fractional business. So for example, when I say making 250K, 300K, we're talking about 2 to 3 clients make it. Like if you have 10K a month from a client to do all the work that you do, which is typically very, very possible. I see this all the time, for 10 to 15 hours a week. And with AI, you can automate a lot on the back end. So you can do that for 2 clients. That will be like 20K. You'll be making about 250K with just 2 clients. And the reason that works, that math works, you're not trying to get hundreds of clients. You're trying to get 2, if not 3 clients. And the reason somebody will pay you 10K or 15K is because you have a niche, you know what you're doing, you in that particular industry. So you have to be very, very, very focused on that. And then you're able to use AI to deliver. So I'll leave you with this idea. For about 20 years of me being at Pardot and Salesforce and all that stuff, the greatest movement in our industry was software as a service. Absolutely the greatest movement, right? And it still is. And the reason is because of the multiples and outcomes that you get. But I would submit to you, Swati, and to everybody listening, is that now the greatest movement is service as a software. Same SaaS, but in a flipped version of it. We wrote a lot of research on it, because what your CEOs or clients, if you're looking for fractional work, are trying to do, they're looking for outcomes. So if you start with saying, hey, I will deliver you this, and now you figure out whatever it is, the software you need on the back end with Claude, with all this. So you have now the greatest opportunity to build an amazing tech stack. The CEO doesn't need to know about your tech stack. They just need to get outcomes. Hey, I'm going to run your ABM campaign. That's all they need to know. And you figure out what you need to do using a bunch of tech on the back end. So service as a software, there are multiples on it. That's why somebody will pay you 10, 15, 20K. Then you can say, here's what I can do. And they would look at that, shoot, if I need to do this, I need to get $100,000 software, is somebody full-time, and 3 years of license, versus I will go with a fractional who knows how to do all this in my industry for 10K a month. That's nothing compared to paying somebody full-time salary. So you have to change that perception and be able to package it and position it and offer it. And that's what I do in that recording, is to show examples of how to package it. It's all in the packaging at the end of the day. Like as marketer, like we all recognize, the CEO is looking for, give me the outcome. Don't tell me how. Don't tell me what you're going to do for me, right? And that is how fractionals can win in the future.
That's an amazing answer. You've answered all the questions. And guys, if you have any more questions, you can definitely get in touch with Sangram. Send him that connection request and like ping him, send him that DM. But we'll end it with one last question that I asked all the guests. That now we have a lot of AI, and we also been talking about it. That with AI you can create these workflows and everything. What's the AI tech stack or like whatever tools that you swear by that you really love? So
Yeah. Well, today, it would be surprising to a lot of people. We do not have, we're a $10 million business in the last 5 years. We do not have a CRM. We do not have a marketing automation platform, believe it or not. Like that's just no longer the tech stack. So my tech stack today includes Claude to do what a lot of the stuff that we do. We use Thinkific, which is a platform where all of our partners can log in and see all the information that we have as part of the certified partner program and clients to do that. We use Swan, GetSwan.ai to do all of our outbound sequencing, as well as all the content creation that's creating based on our framework. So every piece of content I ever write is goes through a 9-point checklist around certain elements of it. So all of that is done in Swan today. So that's, and I think we use like Fathom for all the recording, but at the end of the day, all of them are connected into Swan. So I'm able to see and create content based on what people are interested in and what my customers are interested in and what my clients are interested in. So it's really a three tech stack at the end of the day.
wow, that's really interesting. Thank you so much, Sangram, for your time today. We shot over by a good 10-15 minutes, but thank you so much for being so patient and answering all the questions that were coming
Of
in.
course.
We didn't refer to the questionnaire doc at all, guys. I'd sent one to Sangram. I didn't have to even open it. So thank you so much for all the interest, all the amazing questions, and keeping this conversation so amazing and so much to learn and so much to for us to now go and read also. So we have good amount of homework also. So
Well,
thank
I
you.
think every organization and every individual should think about what are they running on, how they think about the future of it, and my bet is that the GTM OS is a great way to think about strategy. It's not a software, so I'm not going to make any money if somebody runs on GTM OS. I just want more companies to win. I just want more people to win in the way it's too many people are losing because they're not thinking strategy and connecting it to execution. So go to runongtmos.com and get those downloads and start playing with it and build a better business.
Wow, what an amazing vision. So I think I'm definitely going to do that. And so will a lot of people. So thank you so much, Sangram, for giving us your time today. Thank
Thank you,
you. Bye.
Swati, and thank you, everybody.